Hi, Todd VanDenburg here with VanDenburg Capital Management and another Uncommon Sense update. So the month of September has started off not so great. The markets have been down practically every day here for the last week or 10 days. And, that's not the end of the world because, the markets have done really, really well in the last several months and they just can't continue to go up forever. So there are some old, adages about, September being a bad month, and so sometimes, when people take actions based upon those types of adages, there's, oh, September's a bad month, so you should sell and come back in October. Well, the institutional investors start making bets against the market, hoping that they can, maybe push it down a little bit and make money sort of like they did to try to make money on GameStop and AMC. But we all know, well, most of us know what happened when they tried that. But in the grand scheme of things, a little bit of market volatility when there aren't any real fundamental underlying, economic issues, it is just normal volatility. And we're not going to make any big moves as a result. We're just sort of looking for some buying opportunities. And if we see them, we might increase our allocations. But that's not what I wanted to talk about today. Today, I saw some data come out about how the consumer price index, it didn't look as bad this last month as expected. And does that mean that inflation is under control? So I did talk about inflation and how I think that inflation is at least it's manufactured by all the money that the government is printing. So we have this increase of dollars chasing a limited number of products and services. And when that happens, the law of supply and demand kicks in and prices go up. So not a shock that inflation has been up. The report today talking about how inflation might be coming down and it might not be as bad as they thought. I think that might be a little premature too. But before I explain why I think that, I don't think I mentioned this in my last update, but the fact that inflation has appeared here in the last couple of quarters, what that likely means for Social Security recipients in 2022 is that they could get upwards of a 6% increase in their Social Security payments in 2022. Now, just for perspective, over the last 20 years, over the last 40 years, we've averaged, just a couple of percent of increases on average, to Social Security recipients. So to get a 6% increase, that's the largest increase in almost 40 years. So it's good for Social Security recipients because, to be honest, I think they've gotten the short end of the stick since the financial crisis, right? When interest rates fell to zero and retirees could no longer earn any money on their cash and try to get a CD or something. They used to be able to get 4 or 5% easy, no problem. And now if you can get 1%, you feel like you're getting a gift. So not everything about inflation is bad, but I digress. So this report that talks about inflation, coming down and being lower than expected, yeah, there are indications of that. And I'm going to show you a chart here real quick that shows lumber prices. Now, many of you may have heard that lumber prices spiked, and that had an impact on inflation, right? If you're building anything and you need lumber and prices skyrocket to 4 or 5 times what their average was, yeah, that's going to have a major impact on the cost of things. So those prices are going up. Now, why was there a shortage of lumber? Well, when you tell everybody that they can't go to work and they can't cut down trees and then they can't process the trees and then they can't, get the trees to Home Depot or get the lumber to Home Depot, you have a shortage of lumber. And so now, if you look at the end of the chart, what you see is that prices have really come back down again because now that we have, restrictions being lifted in more and more places, that bottleneck is being lifted, and we'll see more and more, lumber making it to market, and prices have improved. So for a relatively short period of time, we had a situation where if you were building a new house, the cost of that house was significantly increasing simply because the cost of lumber had increased so dramatically. But now those prices have come back down again, so it's not such a big deal. Well, but the problem has now switched to aluminum. We now have a situation where aluminum is in a shortage state. And so, we need the smelters and, all of the industrial production facilities that typically, make aluminum. You have to get the raw materials, you have to get them through the refinement process, you have to convert them into something that can then be used for things like beer cans. So the impact of all of the shutdowns and the fact that there were so many people who weren't, going to their jobs, we're sort of seeing that, sort of pop up around the economy. But again, this too shall pass. So the report today that talks about how, inflation wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be is not an indication of, okay, inflation is just going to start getting better and it's going to just continue to get better from here on out. I think we're likely to see, inflation relatively high for at least the balance of the year as we try to work through getting more and more people back to work, to get some of all this federal money that's been, put in the hands of we the people and the banks, get that money distributed out and get it, spent and back through the economy. And once we don't have this imbalance of dollars to products and services, and we get these things more in line, then I think maybe next year or later in the year, we might see inflation start to become more reasonable and something that we're more accustomed to. So, don't be impacted or overly impacted by any news reports that sound like completely different than what you think you know. I mean, if you're going to the gas pump in California, $4.60, $4.70, $4.80, I've seen like upwards of almost $5 a gallon. Oh my gosh, inflation is real, right? So don't let some news report convince you that the world has dramatically changed when really, you can tell through firsthand experience whether you're going to, consume stuff from Home Depot or the grocery store or at the gas pump. Inflation is having an impact. It's having an impact because we the people and our government created a situation that allowed inflation to rise. And as soon as we address that situation, which we're in the process of doing, inflation will come back down to its more historic levels, between 1 to maybe 2.5%, and it'll likely sit in that range until something else bad happens, and then we can deal with that then. So I know that may have been a little duplicative of what I talked about in a prior update, but I get a lot of questions about inflation. I also get questions about the national debt, but I'm not going to talk about that today. But how inflation might have an impact, even though we've got all these extra dollars, if inflation is high, do we really have as much money as we think? And the answer is we just need to be patient. As more and more productivity, it increases and our capacity to produce goods and services, that comes back up, then we'll get more into an equilibrium of something that won't have inflation being as high as it currently is. But again, if you're on Social Security, you're about to get a decent pay raise. So it's not all bad. If anybody has any questions about this or any other financial matter, please just shoot me an email, give me a call, respond to this update. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have. Now, we are at the end of the video here. Some of you probably are looking at this, and yeah, I got a little bit of a black eye. I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to stay in shape, and sometimes you catch an elbow. It is what it is. It's not the end of the world. It's not that working in investments is a tough business and this is the price I pay. It's just it's a hobby and I enjoy it, and so sometimes I get one of these things and it happens. So worry not, it's all fine. But that was your update. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give us a like, give us a share, and I'll be back again soon with another Uncommon Sense update. Thanks for watching.
If you'd like to be the first to hear of more Uncommon Sense updates like these, please click the subscribe button below. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks again.